Hey guys, it's Chris, and I wanted to talk about the DBD community for a minute and this, so-called toxicity, and actual toxicity, and the idea of, the whole entitled survivor thing with camping and tunneling. Me and Mazuma just did a recent podcast that we're going to do probably on a weekly basis when we can, called "Don't Tunnel Me, Bro." We talked a little bit about this. But I want to talk about this idea of entitled survivors, and let me just give you a little backstory here. I do stream on Twitch, so you can find me over there. I'm usually live on Mondays and Thursdays, and a lot of times we go live on Wednesdays, Fridays as well. But just for a little background for me, I've been playing DBD since launch. I used to play on console, and I probably have about 3,000 hours or close to it on PC. So I played probably a total of, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 hours. Not really sure. I would consider myself right now a killer main, although I do play probably about 50-50 survivor and killer. So I try to understand both sides. And when I play, I do try to play in a normal way. I don't try to camp and tunnel and all that stuff because I do think about other people's experience. And, I do occasionally, if I have to, I might need to slug a little bit or whatever, but that's very rare. I try to play straight up. But there's nothing wrong, let me just say right up front, talking about this video or any of this stuff. There's nothing wrong with camping and tunneling. I don't think it's a strategy that works very well, but it is a strategy at times, and it also depends on the killer and their powers, etc. So I want to talk about, toxic survivors, and specifically a situation I just ran across a couple days ago between an up-and-coming streamer named ManFaceJay on Twitch, who also puts out content on YouTube, and a well-known streamer, more well-known streamer, Ayrun, which you guys are probably familiar with. So this is not an attack on anybody. It's not an attack on Ayrun personally. I just want to talk about this idea of toxicity and how it seems to be one-sided, specifically on the survivor side. Now, I'm saying this as, like I said, I play 50-50. I would consider myself a nurse main, but I do play a lot of a survivor as well, especially off-stream. I tend to play more killer on-stream just because it's easier to engage with my chat and all that good stuff, but I do Swift a lot as well, so I'm not anti-Swift and all that. Yes, it's OP and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different conversation. But I want to use Jay's recent video because it's the only footage where you can get both sides of this and go through a couple of examples of how people, and this is not just about Ayrun, I'm just using, again, this as an example, how most people don't even really know what camping and tunneling is, and then even if they do, they'll call out killers for camping and tunneling when they really don't know what's going on in the game. So let me switch over here and put up the video here that Jay put out. Now I'll link his entire video in the description below so you can check out the whole thing. He gives a lot more detail throughout the whole game and both POVs. He was able to get Ayrun's perspective as well, and he can see that's what we're going to see here. But he does have his own perspective as the killer. He was playing Bubba. And to kind of set this up, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, Jay's already done a good job as far as going through this whole game and kind of explaining what's going on. But I wanted to use a couple of examples from this game to talk about this whole camping and tunneling thing and just the misconceptions behind it and how people need to think about the other side a little bit, whether you're a killer or survivor. Yes, I do understand there's toxic survivors out there. Toxic killer. Yes, I do understand there's toxic killers that do stuff to piss survivors off, but the bottom line is it's a lot more survivor-sided because there are just a lot more survivors. Now, to set this up a little bit, this whole entitled survivor mentality thing that we're going to talk about for this particular match, during this whole stream, Ayrun is streaming at this time, and he's talking to his chat. He's talking about the quote-unquote good old days. And he essentially influences his audience in a way. Now, he's not specifically talking about Jay here, but he does influence his audience whether he wants to or not. And that's Jay actually mentions that a little bit as well in this video. But he's talking about the good old days and how in the good old days, for example, that Bubba's would never M1. They would never M1 you. They'd always use their chainsaw, and that's just untrue. As somebody who played since launch of this game, M1 is part of the game. It's a game mechanic. There was no shame in it. But he tries to talk about how, it was just, it meant you were really a bad player if you used M1 on Billy. I'm sorry, Billy. He was talking about Billy. Obviously, Billy's one of the launch characters. So he's talking about that. So he's not necessarily talking about this match, but just to kind of give a setup, again, you can go see the whole video on Jay's channel. I'll leave that linked in the description. He's basically talking about, all this stuff in the olden days to his chat, and how, there was like there was kind of a code to play, and killers didn't camp in tunnel, which is untrue. People didn't know exactly what to do when this game started. They thought it might be a good idea to just sit there in front of somebody and let them die. And of course, as people learned how to play the game, you realize that you just go do generators and they're going to lose. They're going to get a 1K maybe, probably not even that. So that's untrue to start off with. But anyway, the point being, maybe in his experience, there was probably a lot less of it, and I'm sure there was, and maybe that's all he was saying. But the point being is that, Ayrun is a great survivor. I've seen a lot of his videos. I've seen other streamers like him, all the big name streamers. They're really, really good survivors. Been playing for a long time, and their whole YouTube content, their whole channels are based off making killers look stupid. And I wish they'd just damn admit this. I wish they'd just fucking admit that that's what they're doing. They're making killers look stupid. They want them to DC. That's their badge of honor. It's a badge of honor if a killer gets pissed off enough to DC. But yet during this game, he wants to talk about how killers need to be nicer. And it's really, really odd. They do get pleasure from pissing off killers. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're abusing the game mechanics. And again, I'm not against that. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I'm fine with people playing how they want to play. I played against sweaty bully squads. I usually try to ignore them. I just try to take advantage of what they're doing because they're rushing, hooks and all that kind of stuff. I just try to take advantage of that, get more hits and downs, etc. So I try to adjust to it. But we all do get tilted every once in a while. We all get pissed off. It is a competitive game, no matter what people say. Any kind of asymmetrical game is somewhat competitive based off the person playing it. For me, it's a competitive game. For other people, they may not give a shit. They're just playing around with their friends. But it is a competitive game, or at least it can be. So this idea that it's not competitive and we shouldn't just worry about everything is ridiculous. We all try to play games to enjoy it, but when you have people, whether it's a killer or a survivor, going after people and trying to purposely ruin their experience, trying to get them to disconnect or whatever, abusing the mechanics and all that stuff, it is toxic. That's just the way it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If people didn't feel a certain way about it, you can't just discredit all these people who feel horrible about playing killer. You just can't discredit that and say, well, they're just taking it too seriously. No, they want to get on there and at least have a chance. They don't want to win every single game. I mean, you're trying to, but the whole point of all this is you're trying to enjoy yourself and have fun, and you will have fun if you play better, and if you feel like you have a chance, you won't go in automatically tilted and then get pissed off when somebody clickies at you with a damn flashlight. So anyway, what ended up happening is during this match, or right after it, Ayrun's audience actually kind of hate-rated Jay, and he didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, all these people started coming in and calling him a camper and all this kind of stuff. And the point being is, they have no idea what was actually going on in the match. They were just watching Ayrun, listening to him, and then he starts to talk about, oh, I'm being camped, and starts talking about Jay's just camping unapologetically and all this kind of stuff. They have no idea what's actually going on in the match and why he was there in the first place. So that's the kind of stuff I want to go through. Ended up hate rating him, and Ayrun, again, I'm not attacking him personally or anything. He didn't tell people to go over there and do that. As a matter of fact, he said, do not go and say anything to the streamer. Don't be mean. Don't stoop to their level type of thing, after calling him, a toxic camper, essentially, when his whole entire YouTube channel is based off making killers DC and making them look stupid, which is fine. Again, that's fine. It's funny content. That's what they're trying to do. I understand it. Believe me, they've been playing Survivor so long, just like me. It gets boring just, holding M1 on a generator, so they want to go run and flashlight and teabag and all the stuff. And because chases are fun. That's just all there is to it. Chases are funner than sitting on a generator. Anyway, we'll get into it. I won't go through the whole thing, but essentially, let me just throw this out there really quick before we get started. He touches a gen one time and does about, I think, 85, 90% of a gen. But he started off the match just running around, trying to find the killer. He essentially chases the killer. That's what these big, streamers do. They go for entertainment purposes and to make them feel stupid and make them disconnect. They go find the killer to get in a chase, and they click or whatever they want to do to try to get the killer's attention. So they essentially chase the killer. So that's what he was doing the whole game. And then he finally touched the generator, did about 90% of it, and Jay finally came up the steps. He had Tinker, and he smacked him. So when he gets hit and makes mistakes or whatever, then he starts blaming, anyway, let's jump into it. The first example here is when Ayrun gets in his first chase, his second chase after he had got smacked. He goes and gets healed or whatever. Then he gets an actual chase with him, and he, of course, tries to dumb tech him. So let me slide this over here and try to find this. when he actually gets in a chase. So this is right here is when he's actually on the generator, but he comes up the stairs and smacks him. So he's on this generator. Jay's here talking. And I apologize, by the way. This is the only footage we have because Ayrun actually deleted this VOD, so I couldn't go get the clean footage.
In 2006.
So he's talking about how Jay's talking about how he's just talking about the old days, and then he comes up the stairs, and let me get to the part. He actually hits him, jumps out the window. No big deal here. So he's injured here. He goes over here and gets healed, essentially, and just runs around in circles with a flashlight while he's talking to his chat. Then he gets in an actual chase here, so let's see what this looks like. He's highlighting here on his stream that every single one of his videos almost is about how you're, fucking with killers. And he's now talking in his stream about, being a nice killer. So anyway, yeah, here we go. Here's the chase. So we'll just start it right here.
Kind of crazy.
So he's finally got in a chase with him. Of course, he dumb texts him. So you stun him, you move him over. Now he kicks the pallet, walks back around, blinds him. Now, let me just say this. This is perfectly fine if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to play. If you want to do stuff like that, that's abusing the mechanics, but it is legal. It's the mechanics of the game. He's not doing anything illegal. He's not cheating. I'm not saying that. He can play how he wants. But when you play this type of way, and then a killer tries to track you down and keeps you on the hook, even if they purposely camp you, don't be surprised and then start crying. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Ayrun did this in this case. I'm saying I've seen that on a million videos or a million streams where, they play this way. They want to go in there and get their flashlight saves. They want to do the dumb text and all the window text and all the stuff to make the killer look stupid. But then when the killer camps them or, tunnels them out of the game, then all of a sudden they're crying about the killer sucks or he's horrible or he uses crutch perks like No-It or something. So it's always this double standard about I want to play how I want to play because I want to have fun, but I don't want you to have fun, and how dare you kill me, even though you're the killer. So the point being here is this is how he's playing. At this point, he's not worried about Jay's feelings. He's not worried about how he feels about if he's having enough fun in the game. He thinks it's fun while he's doing all the things he wants to do to the killer. But when the killer does something he doesn't like, then all of a sudden he's an asshole. He plays like a bum. He has no skill because he's just camping. But we'll get to that one. I'm going to say he's actually not camping at all. It's based off his team. And by the way, I mean, I know Ayrun is playing this way, like I mentioned before. He's not doing anything to help his team. He's not doing gens when he's not in the chase. He's just running around trying to get in the chase. He's not helping his team. So, I just want to point this out. So let's play this here. He dumb texts him twice.
I don't care at this point. I'm just running my chainsaw. I'm like, what the hell's going on, man? I really couldn't figure it out for a second.
So he does it again. This is, of course, when you slide back over the pallet. It slides him over so he can't break the pallet immediately. Now he has time to come back around and flashlight blind him again. Now, all I'm saying about the dumb tech stuff and all this type of stuff where they abuse the mechanics, why I say it's an abuse of mechanics is none of that was necessary. Like the stun, fine. Want to blind him one time, fine. You could have just ran away from that point, ran away at that point, got away completely, and worked on a gen. And maybe he found you, maybe he didn't, maybe he found somebody else. But the point being is all this is unnecessary. I would say that anything that goes beyond what's necessary to escape could be called toxic because he's doing it for the whole thing is, well, I'm just doing it to get the killer mad. I'm just doing it to get in his head so he'll make mistakes. No, you're doing it because you like to make killers look stupid. And that's fine. Just say that. That's my whole point. That's kind of my big gripe is just say that's what you want to do. You're trying to find some kind of entertainment in this game that you've been playing for so long. You're showing off for your stream, which, again, is perfectly fine, but just say what you mean. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to piss the killer off. And if he DCs right here, for example, that's a badge of honor for you. Unfortunately, Jay knows how to counter the stuff eventually and does not DC.
See, now, anyone as a survivor would admit that's hilarious. That is fucking hilarious.
It is. I mean, it is fun.
You know that the killer's pissed off right now. You know that well, I wasn't bothered, but some killers would get fucking tilted at that, and they'd be fucking angry as shit. That's funny.
So Jay's just saying there, like, look, he don't care that he's actually doing it. He thinks it's funny or whatever, but then later on, when he gets caught, you'll see what I'm talking about. Then it's not funny anymore. You know what I'm saying, to the survivor. And that's the whole idea. And keep in mind, the whole time is, he's talking to his stream of, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 viewers or whatever he has on Twitch. And then, you know, he's going to end up telling the stream how toxic that is to be camping when it's not actually camping. That was kind of the point of this video is the stream, he's telling his stream that he's camping. He's not actually camping. He's got other survivors he's chasing, or right there at the hook, and we'll get to that in a second. But his stream hasn't really been paying attention to what's going on in the game. He's not seeing it from the killer's perspective. And it puts this stuff out there in the community, and, of course, they end up hate raiding Jay over it, like he's toxic, some kind of toxic camper. So, anyway, there was the dumb tech. That's basically the first chase he got in. Let's just move on over to how he got caught. And the mistakes he made, and this is what leads to this so-called camping. So let's get right here. I think he's in a chase. So the first point is if you can see right here, this is where it begins. He just took somebody in the basement, and now Ayrun, instead of running, you know, away from the basement, away from the shack where the basement's located in this particular game, he runs to the killer and starts a chase around the shack. Take this, you know, a little piece of advice if you're playing Survivor, especially in solo queue where you can't communicate. If somebody's hooked and the killer starts chasing you, run away from the hook. All you're doing is fucking this survivor over hanging down here in the basement. They're hanging down here dying, fixing to go to second stage or whatever, and he starts a chase around the shack, but let's let it play.
Because he starts another chase at the shack.
Yeah, and see, he's saying what I'm saying. Like, why are you starting a chase here? He purposely gets his attention and starts running around the hook.
That they're not allowed to camp and tunnel.
He starts a chase at the shack because he's got a plan. He's got a plan to make me look stupid
right.
He can have some fun.
And Jay's absolutely right about this, by the way.
Control 100,000 people?
So he goes in, he touches the gin.
So that I am one.
So right there, what he does, and Jay explains this as well. So I'm not trying to just repeat what he's saying. I'm just trying to go over, you know, how the stream is misunderstanding what's going on. Ayrun knows what he's doing. He's a great survivor. He runs towards him like that. That's a common tactic of higher level survivors. Is when you get more comfortable around the killer, you will do stuff like that to get them to make mistakes. He ran towards him to get him to swing once he got through the window because he was doing a window vault. So he does that to tone him, to get him to swing an M1 and miss, so he'll whiff and get some distance. And I think Jay kind of explains this too, so I may not even really need to say anything. The point is he gets caught. Jay knows how to counter some of these things.
Big face here. You want to get M1 swing.
He knows not to swing there.
He's going to make a mistake and panic and throw an M1.
He does the only thing he can do right there since he started the chainsaw and hops in a locker. And he knows to count.
Oh, I did it too late.
But he miscounted. So he gets carried to the basement.
3 people in the basement now.
So now you see what Jay's pointing out is there's already somebody in the basement. Ayrun starts a chase around the shack instead of leaving the shack area where he would have followed him. This other person is now in the meantime come over to get the save. Now there's 3 people in the basement. Just keep that in mind.
Guys, is it 5.5 or 6.5? Does anyone remember? It's like how many times he swings his thing. Is that you can?
So he smacks the other survivor while he's hooking him. The other one gets out.
5 years to adjust. Well, no. Because
all Ayrun's doing here is basically he's just trying to see how he got caught out of that locker. He got pulled out of the locker because what he's doing when he jumps in a locker like that for Bubba is he's counting the number of swings in his tantrum, and he knows, I believe it's 5.5 count. And then once that's over, he can jump out and get away or whatever. So he miscalculated, and that's why he's talking about this right now. And I think Jay's basically saying, you know, yeah, he just fucked it up.
I mean, even back then there was some bad.
I got not necessarily a hate raid directed or anything.
No, this is when it started. Like he's
of his viewers coming in complaining that I was camping and tunneling and
because and what he's saying here is, you know, he's talking about camping and tunneling and how it used to never be done, or you'd be running out of the community and all this kind of stuff in the good old days or whatever back in 2016, 2017. And in the meantime, his audience is now coming into Jay's stream. Because what's happening is there's 2 people in the basement. Jay is right up here on the stairs, but there's a reason, so I'll just let it play out here.
This whole fucking match he's talking about camping and tunneling the whole entire way through. No one's paying attention to what the fuck he just did. No one understands
and this is
why
what
they're in the basement. No one gets why I stay at the basement.
This is what Jay's pointing out, and again, I'll put his whole video if you want to see the whole thing in detail. But Ayrun is not really paying attention to the current game. He's talking about the good old days and camping and tunneling, which is putting this out there in the community's heads that if a killer, for example, is just near the hook, that he's just camping, when he could be chasing somebody near the hook like he was Ayrun himself when the other person was in the basement. But what you don't see here is you see this gen just got popped, and they immediately run to the basement. And right now, he's already got somebody else up here, too. So now everybody's coming over here. Where else is he going to go? I'll just let it play out here.
Because he's not highlighting that. He's highlighting camping and tunneling, and he's highlighting how M1 is bad and how everyone, the killers no longer care about survivors' fun. He's not highlighting how much fun he's having while he's messing about with the dumb tech attempts.
Right,
with the
exactly.
attempt, with the window attempts. He's not highlighting any of that.
He's not highlighting anything that he does wrong. He's not highlighting how he was having fun with him and, dumb teching and trying the stuff through the window and trying to get him to whiff and all that kind of stuff for his fun and entertainment. But now it's going to turn into a shit show because he's not having fun anymore. So he went from having a good old time, making the kill look stupid, until he realized in the shack that the killer didn't fall for his normal tricks. And now it's going to turn into, oh, well, he's just a shitty, campy killer. There you go. The reason he's still here, I'm gonna Paul. He's going to say this himself, I'm sure, Jay, but because I want to move on to the last little piece. This video is getting way too damn long, but he's still there because as we saw a minute ago, somebody was already here. The other person finished I think it was the Steve, finished the gen, or it might have been the Fang, finished the gen and ran over and joined them as well. So now you have two people in the basement, which was not to do to any camping and tunneling, and the other two come rushing over to get the saves or whatever, and now they're there. Where is he supposed to go? Because now Ayrun starts saying, oh, I'm getting shamelessly camped. No, your other survivor teammates are there. So he has no generators to go stop. He's not worried about more gens getting done because he sees them there. They're fucking with him.
That. Where do you want me to fucking go, dude?
Exactly. What's he supposed to do?
2 gens left. Where do you want me to fucking go? What do I do? Where do you want me to go?
Now, all you have to do here, right, is you already had somebody here. The third person was at the top of the thing the whole time, so that's why he never even went up the stairs completely. The other person finishes a gen and comes over and joins them. If he goes up the stairs, which he did, and doesn't see anybody, he's going to probably the closest generator or where his barbecue told him to go if he's using barbecue, which I think he is. So he's going to go to those auras if he sees barbecue auras after he hooks Ayrun in this case. He would have been away from the shack. But no, they both run in here. So where is he supposed to go? So the point of all this is when you're a survivor and you start thinking like this because your favorite streamer says stuff like this, or you experience it in some way, start thinking about what are your teammates doing? Start thinking about, is the killer actually camping or is he chasing somebody? You can see the auras when you're on hook. Ayrun should have looked up and said, why are you guys still hanging around? If you'll leave, he'll chase one of you off, right? He should know this, but he doesn't say that.
Why is someone being toxic? It's not. It's not.
So now he goes to second stage.
There's no gens anywhere, so I don't need to go and stop generators because you're not doing generators.
Well, there you go. Now, the other person died, by the way, because Ayrun started the chase around the shack. If Ayrun would have taken the chase away from the shack, one of these other two survivors would have came down here, got the rescue, and they'd have been all spread out again and probably even won the game. But Ayrun was one of the people that decided not to touch generators the whole game except for one. They could have had generators already done and been out of here, as a matter of fact. Because you see early on that he runs around the whole time just running in circles and moonwalking and whatever, and they heal a couple times or whatever, but he never touches a gen but once. He does most of one gen. So they lose this game essentially because of what he's doing, because I believe he's solo queuing. But this person would have never died, wouldn't have died yet, at least, if he would have not started a chase around the shack trying to get him to whiff at the window and do the locker tech and all that kind of stuff. But now it's going to turn into Jay's being an asshole because everybody's in the same place. So you just killed your teammate, and now your other two teammates are here, so the killer's not going anywhere because they're right there. He sees them.
This is how it was.
And this is why I said I'm not mad at him. He was trying to play his game for fun and enjoy himself. And if I made the mistakes that he wanted me to make, he would have had a great time. He would have loved it. I'd have whiffed at the windows.
Yes, this is what I wanted you to hear from Jay.
Dumb-teched all the way around the map. It'd have been a fantastically cool game. It would have been fun.
Yeah, this is what Jay is saying, is essentially if it would have went the other way and he would have whiffed at the window and he would have got out of the locker and got away from the shack or whatever, if he decided to do that, then it would have been fine. It would have been completely fun. The stream would have been having fun and laughing at the killer's expense because that's what they're trying to do. They're bored of generators, which, again, I completely understand. They want to be in chases, and they want to see, they want to impress their stream and show off their skill, which they rightfully so. They've earned that. We're talking about people like Ayrun and whatever. They're really good survivors. No question about it. But they don't have to do all this stuff. They do it for the content. They do it for the YouTube videos, for the clicks, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either. But then you can't turn around because a game's not going your way. The killer decides to take matters into his own hands, depending on the situation, and say, oh, now you have to worry about my fun, because that's exactly what happens. So anyway, I'll let this play out, and then we'll go to the very end. One little quick thing.
But I didn't.
Wait, I'm getting camped?
See, now he'd really... Okay, oh, wait, I'm getting camped?
Standing on the stairs camping, like, shamelessly.
I'm standing on the stairs camping.
Here we go.
Shamelessly.
He just now realized that kind of shows you too. That kind of shows you too, is being a streamer, you're not always paying attention to everything going on. He just now put his camera up there to see the ores of these other two that are at the shack. How can Ayrun, who's been around long enough to know better, say this is camping? I mean, in the sense of he's still right there in the stairway, sure, but because his other teammates are right there. So I'm not sure why he thinks he's supposed to... What is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to just walk up the stairs and just pass the survivors and then let them go get the unhooks and reset? Is that what he's supposed to do? Eventually he does get in a chase. He goes after somebody. He does get off the hook.
Put yourself in the mind of Ayrun. He gets saved.
Now, this is an important point.
Steve goes down. I've
all right.
him. See my big face staring at him.
So he hits Steve, and Ayrun stops. Now, he could have left.
Moment right now.
He could have left. This is important.
Because what he wants to happen, I've said this 4 times already, is he wants me to pick Steve up so that he can flashlight blind through the slats.
Which you can do.
Get out. That's why he stood there. He stopped running away. I turned my light away because I knew he was coming back in for that flashlight save, because I know how these fuckers think.
And he's absolutely right here. He stops.
Play would be to get that flashlight save.
So he wanted to, he was sitting there saying he's getting camped, and then he hangs around even longer so he can, again, make him look dumb by, oh, look, I'm going to get this flashlight save. You don't even know I'm still here. Maybe you don't even know, dumb killer, that I can shine a flashlight through these 2 open slats here and get the flashlight save. But he's been around long enough, Jay apparently, to know better and counters it. Now, Ayrun could have just kept on running and went and reset and probably, made it out, or at least potentially for sure, because he's a good enough runner to get away from the killer when he wants to get away from the killer. So he could have left, but he didn't, because they have to have these plays, these big, plays, these flashlight saves, these dumb techs, these window techs. They have to play this way for entertainment, but he's not worried about his entertainment, the killers.
Even get out. All 3 of you get out of the basement. That would have been fucking delicious, that would have.
Yeah, so he's just making the same point there. Basically, that's what he wanted to do. He gets the flashlight saved, and everybody gets out, and then it's a big... Then they're going back to having fun again. So anyway, I won't harp on that anymore. You can see what I'm saying there. People don't realize what's really going on there, especially the people in the stream. They're half paying attention because he's been talking about camping and tunneling the whole time, and now in their heads... he's been camping and tunneling the whole time, when clearly he was camping in the sense of being near the hook because there were 2 other survivors right upstairs that he saw. That's enough of that. You get the idea. I think people just need to think about the other side for a little bit and what's actually going on, and really look up, think about the actual definitions of camping and tunneling, and think about what may be happening as opposed to just, screaming, oh, he's a camper. Oh, he's a tunneler. Oh, he's a shitty killer because he's camping. Because what happens is Ayrun goes on to say, see, if you're just camping unapologetically, it just shows you have no skill. So basically, called him a shitty killer. He called him a shitty killer, even though he got a 4K using tactics. But it was based off what the survivors did. So all I'm saying is people need to think about the other side a little bit. And I know sound like I'm picking on survivors here, but I'm just using this as an example. It does go both ways. But the point being is, he wanted to get all his plays in for the entertainment of his stream, maybe even a YouTube video, a YouTube highlight reel, whatever it may be. But then he gets so-called camped, and then it's not fun anymore. The last little thing I want to point out here is what he says at the end. So I'll just go forward a little bit. He tried to dead hard to the window, by the way, is what happened. So he, instead of running away earlier, like I said, he wanted to stay at the flashlight, get the flashlight stave. He ends up chasing him up the stairs. He tries to dead hard. He runs around the gin once or twice, trying to get him to swing and hit the gin, which is a common thing. Advanced survivors do this. And then he tries to dead hard to the window for a fast vault, but doesn't hit it and gets hit going out the window. So now he's crawling away.
Basically, if you camp, it basically means that you don't care how much fun your opponent is having, right?
You hear what he just said? If you camp, you don't care about how much fun your opponent's having. The killer's supposed to care about all your fun. Now, what Jay's doing here is he's showing the dumb text that he just did in the same game. So what he's pointing out here is kind of my whole point of this whole video is he's showing here what he did earlier. Do you think when he was doing the dumb text here 2 in a row, that he gave a shit about how if Jay, the killer, was having fun? You think he cared about the killer's fun right here during this clip?
Just for the sake of you having fun.
So he's told a bunch of people that I'm a careless fuckhead who just camps and tunnels all game. Doesn't want to highlight what happened in the match. Highlight the fact that he ran to the shack for a chase while someone was hooked downstairs.
There you go.
Highlight the fact that he slowed down at the stairs so he wanted to get a flashlight save. Highlight the fact he's touched no generator the entire game.
He did touch one.
He dumb-teched me, attempted to dumb-tech me 3 or 4 times.
So as a killer, you remove 4 people's fun by playing like
yeah,
that.
So and again, Jay's just showing here in this edited video that, his whole entire YouTube catalog is about, making killers look stupid. I won't go through the rest of it. Essentially, he said that, and then actually some person in his stream says, why should the killer care about your fun? And he says, well, because it's an asymmetrical game. You should care. But the point being is, again, he didn't care about Jay's fun when he was doing the dumb text and trying all that stuff. So I'll end it there. I won't go any further. This went way too long, but I wanted to break this down a little bit because me and Mazuma were talking about this on the last podcast, which we'll actually go back and do another one here fairly soon, maybe this weekend actually. So check out Don't Tunnel Me Bro episode 3 coming up. Episode 1 and 2 is out now. We kind of did 1 and split it in half, talking about some different things in the game. But the point being here is you just pay attention as a killer or survivor to what's going on in the game. Maybe think about, the reason a killer's still nearby the hook. Maybe it's one of your teammates' faults as far as, what you're perceiving as camping and tunneling. I just get so tired of seeing the camping and tunneling stuff as far as people being accused of it. When people don't even know the definitions, what they actually mean. Tunneling comes from tunnel vision. It means you are literally going out of your way to go after one person. If I go and hook somebody, and then I get in a chase with somebody else, and I hook them, and I go back towards, I see barbecue procs or whatever, and I see somebody going to the hook where I just hooked the other person, and then I go and I down them both or whatever, that is not tunneling. I have chased somebody between you and somebody else. Between your hook, I've hooked somebody else, and now I'm coming back to the hook because I know a rescue is about to happen. That is not tunneling. I'm not going out of my way to get you specifically out of the game. I may swing at you first. Because maybe I just see you. You're also the injured one. Maybe you have borrowed time. Maybe you don't. And camping is not when you're chasing somebody else around a hook, because that's your teammate's fault. Your teammate is running around a hook, whether it's the shack in this case or just in general in the area, and you still hear the heartbeat, and you're now screaming camping or proxy camping. Then of course, it became proxy camping. They threw the word proxy in front of it so they could say if the killer's even nearby now, it's camping in some way. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of point out, because this is almost a perfect game as far as a couple different examples of what happens. You have a big streamer like Ayrun, who, again, this is not a personal attack on him. This was just the stuff he was talking about, and he puts that in the heads of his audience, and now they're going out to Jay's stream and other people's streams and in their own games now, thinking that every killer is camping and tunneling, because that's all he talked about the whole game. He didn't go down through his own video and break down, okay, yeah, I kind of screwed up here. I started a chase because I wanted to be in a chase because it's fun to me, but I started one around the shack where somebody was hooked already. He didn't mention any of that stuff. He gets caught. His stuff doesn't work the second time, and because he didn't fall for the bait swings and all that kind of stuff. And then he didn't blame his survivor teammates for coming to the shack all at once and keeping the killer there. He just blames the killer, and that's kind of the point of this whole thing. So anyway, I'll stop it there. I've been rambling way too long, but I wanted to point this out because Zoom and I were talking about some of this toxicity stuff in the last podcast, and this was a really good example of it, and what starts creating more and more of it, because people get these entitled mindsets because of things like this. No, I'm entitled to fun, but the killer's not. The killer's not entitled to fun. Even if a killer's being toxic, sometimes they just are, and you just move on to the next game. They're having fun. Don't you care about everybody's fun? But it only seems to go one way. It's fun when they're getting the flashlight saves. It's fun when they're clicking. It's fun when they're sabotaging hooks. It's fun when they're body blocking. But it's not fun when you're getting camped. Even if he was legitimately getting camped, all of a sudden it's not fun, and you're a shitty, toxic killer. So I just wanted to defend killers a little bit as a killer main. But again, I know what happens on both sides, just using this as an example. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Catch me on Twitch. Might be live. I actually will be live tonight as I record this video.